have long hair.
See Joey?
No. Is he passed by yet?
No.
Oh, okay, I'll be on the lookout.
Oh, there he is. There's Joey.
Oh, there, yeah. So my kid's not the only one with the long hair.
Levi.
Karen, Chad's not involved in this? He did? Oh, I missed it.
I got a picture.
I don't recognize him.
It's fun to look at this whole group and picture today's kindergartners side by side with the seniors, and knowing that someday they're going to be graduating. Some of them are going to have their names up in the tower too, and there's so much energy that goes on a day like today. So first to the students, whether you're a returning student or a new student here at USM, have fun reuniting with your old friends and making new ones today. Make sure you welcome new classmates to USM. Help them out, help them find their way around the school that you already know so well. Take advantage and enjoy learning from the best and most caring teachers that are out there, are the ones working at this school. And again, just reflecting on, as a parent of 3 grads of USM, they still talk about the teachers that they had years and years ago, some of whom are still here today. So think about that and think about what great teachers work at USM. To the parents gathered here today, first of all, thanks so much for coming. You'll hear more about the theme of trust from the prefects a little bit later in this opening ceremony. That's this year's Common Trust theme. Really the only thing I want to say is to thank you on behalf of the Board of Trustees for putting your trust in University School, especially if you're a new parent here at USM. You'll find, if you haven't already found it, a great blend of caring, skilled faculty, high standards, a welcoming atmosphere as you see this morning, and a great balance between tradition and innovation. And this is one of the best traditions at USM. One word of advice to parents is find ways to volunteer, whether it's through Parents Association, through boosters, through being class sponsors, annual giving, and so on. Again, reflecting on 25 years ago when my oldest son began in JK at USM, we became part of the community very quickly by becoming volunteers at school. So it's really important for everybody here to find a way that you can help, because it'll really enrich and enhance your experience at school. And finally, to the faculty and the staff and the administration, thanks again from the board for everything you do, not only as a board member, but as a parent of alums who can see how you've affected so many current students and alums and grads of this great school. So that's it. Have a great year to everybody, whether it's students, families, and teachers. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to our head of school, Mrs. Laura Fuller. Thank you.
Everyone again, today we celebrate the opening of the 2015-2016 school year, and as I said, a special celebration to the class of 2016. You are now the leaders of our school. A round of applause for our seniors. But perhaps most importantly, today is a day that we call attention to the fact that there are traditional guidelines for how we live here in the USM community. And these guidelines are rightfully summarized in our Common Trust. It is such a very important thing that we begin every school year by reminding ourselves that we literally live by the Common Trust. In a few minutes, as Mr. Cecil said, you will hear from the class of 2016 prefects as they share personal stories about how they have been challenged with the idea of trust in their lives. Trust is perhaps one of the most important factors that bind human relationships together. We often wonder whether or not we can trust someone else. It is complicated and it is nuanced. In order to trust another person, we need to make ourselves perhaps a bit more vulnerable. It requires opening your hearts and your minds, and it can be just a little bit frightening. It takes courage to trust another person, and it takes time. But it also seems to me that today we should worry about not only trusting others, but maybe whether or not we have ensured that others can trust us. And this we can control. So what does it take to be trusted? Once again, it cannot happen quickly. Trust takes time. We need to repeatedly and consistently exhibit ethical character to those around us. Others need time to observe and experience our actions. Everything we do and everything we say plays a part in building our own personal reputation. And as the school year commences, I wonder if each of us could ask this question: am I behaving in a way that allows others to trust me? So as we begin this year and we think about trust, let's think about building that ethical reputation. Am I fair? Am I honest? Am I kind? And am I respectful? In other words, do I live by the tenets of the common trust in everything I say and everything I do? Because this is ultimately what is required to build a reputation that allows others to trust you. And quite simply, it is required for a fulfilled and happy life. So on that note, again, I'm so excited to be here with you. Enjoy the year, enjoy this gorgeous day. What a remarkable place we have to live and grow in. And what wonderful and beautiful guiding principles.
Hello, my name is Turquoise Baker. In 4th grade, I knew a kid named Lucas. Lucas was a crazy guy. He constantly talked about aliens and teacher conspiracy theories, such as Miss Jones's pet cow, and always reminded us that his family was from Cyprus. At one of my first track meets, I remember him saying, "Run like your life depends on it." One of my friends asked, "What if it doesn't?" Lucas looked him dead in the eye and said, "Oh, it will." Fast forward to a national meet this summer. I trained relentlessly for the 4x400 meter relay, only to find out one day before the race that I would be running the 4x100 meter relay instead. I was excited but equally terrified. Most teams had practiced 20, 30, even 40 or more times before the semifinal race. We hardly practiced twice. If you ever watched or been in a 4x100 meter relay, you may understand how technical the handoff process is. The runner receiving the baton has to start running at exactly the right moment and remain within the exchange zone during the handoff, while running anywhere between 17 and 19 miles per hour. We all had our doubts, but all of us were experienced sprinters and knew what to do. So on race day, before we stepped on the track, we continuously told each other, "You got this, we got this, just run fast, less than 13 seconds of your life." The lighthearted but determined atmosphere we created between ourselves boosted our confidence as individuals and confidence in each other. Unfortunately, we did not take first place. However, even though we had to do something out of our comfort zone, we trusted our abilities and each other, worked as a team, and ran our best. Life always finds a way to surprise us, giving us oranges when we are expected to make lemonade. But trusting our abilities and ourselves can often get us through the most difficult situations. We may not always be prepared, but sometimes we just have to close our eyes, hold on tight, and run like our lives depend on it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Arvind Godet, and I have an aversion to all things athletic. To give you an idea, once when I was playing baseball, I ended up throwing the bat. No, not in frustration, but in an effort to hit the ball. For someone with my lack of athleticism, playing a school sport is a nightmare. This nightmare came to life when my father told me that I would have to play a sport as a freshman. Naturally, I looked for what I thought would be the easiest sport. Though I knew it would require a lot of running, I figured that cross country would be an easy out. But I was woefully mistaken. On our first day of practice, I told Coach Pilling that I wasn't really looking to compete, but just to get in shape. As the season progressed, however, the effort I put in continued to wane. On the toughest practice days, aptly named Torture Tuesdays, I would find myself at unavoidable piano lessons. And instead of running on long practice days, I would take leisurely nature walks in the cross-country course. Since I wasn't taking these walks alone, I also brought some of my teammates down with me. By doing this, I broke the bonds of trust within the team. Though cross-country isn't strictly a team sport, everyone still needs to work together to achieve their goals. We often like to think that we are alone in control of our success or failure, but as a team or community, we have to trust each other so we can collectively improve. And trust is the key to every relationship within a community. For example, teachers trust students to come prepared to school, and students trust teachers to do the same. My coach trusted me just as I trusted him. When that trust is broken, when those expectations are shattered, it chips away at trust as a whole. It undermines the foundations of our relationships. Trust is the often unseen yet essential element in our community. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ibrahim Khan. As I flipped through the television channels late one summer night, a certain movie caught my interest and I started to watch. I'll assure you that despite the atrocious Rotten Tomatoes rating of 18%, Ride Along isn't that bad of a movie. It's a comedy movie that came out last year. It featured Kevin Hart and Ice Cube in stereotypical good cop, bad cop roles. The main characters, Ben and James, couldn't be more different, yet they are forced to work together as they patrol Atlanta. And while they attempt to trust one another, they don't get along in the slightest. Ben eventually gets fed up and can't help but call James out, saying, "That's the problem with you, man. You can't trust anyone. Someday you'll have to rely on someone, James." I'd urge everyone in the crowd today here to not be like James and to go find at least one person who they can truly trust. Trust me, it'll make your life a lot easier. Trustworthy people usually make for good friends, and people like that can be the difference between good days and bad days. A good friend helps you feel less lonely and is there to listen when life gets overwhelming and schoolwork is piling up. A good friend provides you with a new perspective on life, supports your dreams and goals, and likes you for who you really are. And most importantly, a good friend makes you a happier person. Trust is a fickle thing. It's confusing. It's not easy to know whom you can trust and whom you can't. Sometimes people will let you know that they can't be trusted, but a lot of the time you'll simply have no idea. In situations like these, as author Ernest Hemingway once quipped, the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them. Ultimately, the decision to trust someone is yours, and the only real way you can find out is jumping in head first. So in the end, I urge you to go find that person, someone who you can trust and who is truly a good friend. Hopefully you and your friend will be more compatible than Kevin Hart and Ice Cube. Take that friend and bring them along for the ride. You won't regret it.
Hi, my name is Marshall Lerner. Today we are all talking about trust, which seems simple enough. I trust you, you trust me, let's all trust each other. But it really isn't as easy as it sounds. How do we earn trust? Unlike the other common trust elements, which are respect, honesty, fairness, and kindness, trust can only be earned over time. Take, for example, when I first came to USM in 3rd grade from Texas. I knew none of the other students. From the opening day ceremony to the end of the first day, I saw around 1,000 new faces. So how was I supposed to pick my best friends? How was I supposed to know who to trust? 8-year-old me didn't realize that friendships and trust don't pop up out of nowhere, but develop over time. After all, trust is the key to friendships. The next day, I met another new boy in my class, and the conversation went something like this. "What's your favorite type of music?" "Rock." "Me too." And that was the start of our friendship. Honesty? Check. Kindness? Check. Fast forward a couple months, and we became the best of friends. He proved his fairness on the playground and earned my respect in the classroom, but the last thing he had to do was earn my trust. After 2 months of hanging out every day at school, talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, and drinking other people's chocolate milk, I finally trusted him with my biggest secret. It was the biggest secret that a 3rd grader can have. I told him the girl that I liked. For the next week, I was scared that I would come to school and learn that he had betrayed me by telling everyone my secret, but he didn't. He earned my trust, and 9 years later, he is still one of my best friends. My advice to you today is to make friends with some new students and be the type of person that earns someone else's trust. And then you too could make good friends like Osman. Thank you.
Hey everyone. I'm Max Levitage. A couple months ago, I was at a theater program at Northwestern in an uncomfortably small and hot room with 16 strangers and a friend named Truman Smith. And on that day, I was taught a thing or two about trust. We were instructed to pair up and have one person close their eyes while the other person stands behind them and steers them around the room. There were just 2 rules. Don't hit anyone else and go fast. I'm paired with Truman, so I drive him around until I see an open stretch in front of us, and then I tell him to run. He speeds up. Unfortunately for us, one of the other drivers saw that open space and had the same idea. We noticed each other right away. We were on a collision course. We could see what was about to happen. But Truman was moving fast, and his eyes were closed, and I wasn't able to get him to stop fast enough. Boom. Nobody got hurt, thankfully. But this activity wasn't over. No, I had to keep driving Truman around after that, and honestly, that was the worst part. I imagined what it was like to be him, moving through space with no sense of what is around you, and suddenly you run into this wall of a person. He must not have wanted to let me steer him again, and probably wanted to be in control himself, because Truman refused to run a second time. And even when we were walking, he'd stop suddenly every few feet, sensing some phantom person in front of him who wasn't really there. When people trust you, they surrender to you a part of themselves. Truman literally let me be his eyes, and that took courage. If, like I did, you fail to respect the trust placed in you, it's difficult to be trusted again. So, it's our responsibility as trustworthy people to take that piece of another person and treat it more gently and carefully than we would treat ourselves. I don't want to run into someone else, so even if it's hard, I can't let Truman. If we can have confidence that other people will give our lives the same honor and respect that they give their own lives, we are free to trust and be trusted, to run forward in total darkness because we know someone's got our back. We have an opportunity here as young people to build bonds at USM that will last lifetimes. So please be trustworthy people. Go forth and do unto others as they would do for themselves.
Hello everyone, my name is Lexi VandenHeuvel. In the summer of 2009, I spent 14 days exploring the national parks, mountains, and hot springs of Montana and Wyoming with 15 other campers. Since we were sleeping at campsites instead of hotels, every camper had a responsibility, such as picking up trash, setting up tents, or cleaning up the dishes when we switched campsites. But the responsibility that I was the most excited for was Camp Chef. Camp Chef was not an easy task. We had to buy groceries and cook on a budget with limited access to pans and heat while wearing a hairnet. Now, the reason I was so excited for being Camp Chef was because I was not planning on having a simple ham and cheese sandwich. No, I would create a delicious creamy Alfredo dish, gluten-free of course. As my friend Anne and I prepared the heavenly pasta dish, she nagged me to put my hair up, but I was too busy creating a culinary masterpiece, so I opted out. However, about 30 seconds into dinner, my counselor found a strand of brown hair in her food. "Lexi," she questioned, "did you put your hair up like I asked?" Solemnly, I mustered a muffled no. "Sorry, Lexi, but your days as head camp chef are over." Though I didn't expose a friend's deepest secret or lie to my mom, I still betrayed my counselor's trust by not following instructions. See, trust is based solely on performance. If you cheat on a test or expose a friend's secret, how do they know you won't do it again? The second you break someone's trust, your promises become meaningless, and people will hesitate to give you responsibilities in the future. Because trust is the hardest thing to gain and the easiest thing to lose. So this year at USM, I encourage you to follow through with your promises so that USM can have a positive, community-oriented environment where everyone can feel comfortable. Thank you and have a fantastic year.